2023.
Our research project is on the relationship between childhood asthma and ozone levels in Fresno County. My name is Kieran Claire, and my group members are Sirith Kaur and Haley McFall. San Joaquin Valley is ranked the worst air quality in California, which leads to many of the asthma cases experienced here. Fresno County is a part of San Joaquin Valley. There are multiple pollutant concentrations that are associated with the poor air quality, such as ozone, PM2.5, and pollen. These all affect the number of emergency department visits for pediatric asthma. There's also a study that has confirmed tree coverage associated with better overall human health. However, before we can analyze the relationship between tree coverage and pediatric asthma, we need to find and analyze the specific air pollutant concentrations that are linked to pediatric ED visits for asthma. Our research question is, do the ozone levels in Fresno County influence the number of emergency department visits in adolescents due to asthma? Our gap we are trying to fill is within the Fresno County, are rates of the emergency department visits predictable based on the levels of ozone? This graphic here shows a map of California with Fresno County here in the center. This dark blue color shows that Fresno County experiences the highest average annual rate of asthma rates of pediatric asthma ED visits in all of California.
As far as our methods go, we analyzed air pollution and childhood asthma in the Fresno County between the years 2016 and 2018, looking at PM 2.5 and ozone concentrations. Ultimately, we found the best link between ozone concentrations and the asthma rates. So we went through, we collected respiratory data, and that data measured the emergency department visits due to asthma per 10,000 children within the Fresno County. And we used the annual average asthma rates for those years from the databases of Office of Statewide Health Planning and the Development Emergency Department. Our air quality index data for Fresno County is from the California Air Resource Board. And from that, we found the H index for the amount of days that the ozone level was over 0.07 parts per million. And we determined that to be our limit because it actually had the most amount of days within that parameter. So had we used 0.075 or 0.08 parts per million, it just would have been too high and there wouldn't have been as consistent of an average as 0.07 parts per million has. And the AQI device works similar to a thermometer, and it's used to measure the amount of pollution in the air. And as you'll see on the following slides, our respiratory and air quality data were computed using Google Sheets.
So here are our figures. So the graph on the left, figure 1, shows average ED visits in adolescents due to asthma from 2016 to 2018. So the x-axis represents years, while the y-axis represents average ED visits in percentages. Moving on to the graph on the right, figure 2 represents the H index over 0.07 ppm from 2016 to 2018. The x-axis again represents years, but the y-axis in this case is the H index over 0.07 ppm. Results. So from figure 1, we can conclude an increase in ED visits due to asthma in adolescents from 2016 to 2017, but a decline from 2017 to 2018. A similar trend can be observed from figure 2 in terms of their trend. The H index over 0.07 ppm increases from 2016 to 2017, but slightly decreases from 2017 to 2018. So from both of those graphs, we can observe a similar trend. As ozone levels increase in Fresno County, so do the ED visits from asthma. So ozone levels is probably a stimulant that causes respiratory trouble and directly affects ED visits due to asthma in adolescents in Fresno County.
Initially, we analyzed the relationship between PM 2.5 and asthma, but we ended up ruling it out as a contributing factor because it did not correlate with our emergency department visits. So the graph of ozone and emergency department visits have similar rates, and we ended up drawing that conclusion that they are a direct relationship between the two. And as we saw, neither rate is fluid, which proves that there must be an underlying stimulant that causes them to fluctuate from year to year. So that ozone is a stimulant for asthma. As you can see, the trends that are very similar between the two. And after compiling this information, we were able to seal our hypothesis and overall draw the conclusion that the relationship between OZO and adolescent emergency department visits are directly related to each other. And in order to close that gap, we can say that as ozone level increases, it's predictable that adolescent ED visits will also increase. And here are references.